Fontes is the new assistant professor and field crop extension agronomist at the U of I here in Urbana-Champaign. He's an alum here, and when he was a student, did some NREC-funded project work, especially interested in enhancing nutrient use efficiency so that we can produce crops with fewer inputs or more crops with more inputs. Has been working closely with Dr. Nafziger as he gets settled into his new role. So please welcome Dr. Giovani Preza Fontes.
Hi, everybody. So I'm not going to take a lot of your time. I just want to come and introduce myself, just a little bit about me, and probably you guys already noticed by the accent that I'm not from around, right? So I grew up in Brazil, more specifically in the state of Mato Grosso, as you can see on the map, Midwestern Brazil. So a good reason to stay there, for those that knows farming, Mato Grosso is the lead state producing soybean and grains in Brazil. That's one of the reasons that I decided to stay and get my education there. So I got my bachelor's in agronomy from the Federal University of Mato Grosso. After that, I came to the U.S. for grad school. Here are a list of the places that I've been so far. My first stop was at Kansas State, where I got my master's degree in agronomy. So I stayed there for a little over 2 years. After that, I came to U of I for my PhD. I graduated from U of I in the spring of 21, and then I moved across the state. I was a postdoc at Purdue University for a little over a year before returning to U of I. So during this time at the US in my research program, has a lot of focus have been on looking at the productivity and environmental performance across different cropping systems and environments, right? As I mentioned before, these are the places that I've been. More specifically, most of my research have looked at the impacts of cover crops and how that impacts nitrogen fertilizer management, right? So a lot of questions that we ask is that what are the impacts of cover crops on soil and nitrogen dynamics, how they impact crop production and nitrogen use efficiency. And I also did a lot of measurements in terms of water and air quality, looking at nitrate leaching and nitrous oxide, for example. So I just put a few pictures here just to walk you guys through a little bit of my past research. Here's from my time at Kansas State. Over there, I was working on the 3-year no-till crop rotation with winter wheat, grain sorghum, and soybean. So over there, we were looking at ways to optimize the system. So in addition to the double crop soybean after winter wheat, we were looking at different cover crop species, and again, looking at how they impact nitrogen availability in the soil during the next crop phase, and how they impact nitrogen requirement during the sorghum phase. This is a couple of pictures summarizing my time here at U of I during my PhD. Again, I was fortunate to get funding from NREC to do my PhD work. My PhD was at the Dudley Smith farm. Probably you guys are familiar with the farm. We had a nice infrastructure put in place in the fall of 16. We have a replicated tile drainage there where we can ask a lot of questions in terms of nitrogen soil dynamics. So overall, one of the things that we did for the Dudley Smith project, we were looking at 2 conservation practices and asking more like a holistic approach to understand nitrogen dynamics in the system, right? So we were looking at the use of cover crops and how can we optimize nitrogen fertilizer application in terms of time of nitrogen application. And we were looking at their impacts on crop productivity. We measured nitrate leaching losses. We also measured nitrous oxide emissions to try to understand if there was a synergy or if there's a trade-off between these nitrogen loss pathways. Here are a couple of pictures of my time at Purdue. I was lucky enough to work with Dr. Shalimar Armstrong. So in his lab, in his project, I was helping with everything and all the projects. So here are a couple of pictures. I'm not sure if he talked to you about the precision planting project that he had going on that was funded by North Central SARE. Nice experience for me was working with legume balança clover. It's a overwinter legume cover crop that I'm looking forward to continuing the research here at U of I as well. So Again, I started this position last fall, so young assistant professor. I'm building a research and extension program that focus on sustainable cropping system, right? So to me, sustainable cropping system means increasing productivity, improving nutrient use efficiency, and also looking at environmental stewardship, right? So here is just the fancy words of the things that I plan to do for this position. Those are the 3 key areas that I'm going to focus on for my time here. Sustainable crop nutrition is just looking at better ways and perhaps advancing and continue advancing the science behind it for our nutrient stewardship, right? So there's still a lot of questions in terms of nitrogen management in the state, but also moving beyond nitrogen and looking at phosphorus, potassium, and sulfur. I'm also continuing my work with cover crops, so regenerative and conservation practices, also looking at conservation tillage. I'm a big proponent of strip till. I think we can get the best of both worlds, and there's always the opportunity to nest that with our fertilizer management. So again, didn't want to take a lot of your guys' time, so again, I appreciate Julie and the NREC board for the opportunity to be here and introduce myself to you guys, and I'll be around and happy to talk to you